A king walks the roof of his palace at dusk. Below him, the city he rules. Behind him, the wars he has won. He has palaces, armies, songs written in his name, the favor of heaven itself. And then he looks down and sees a woman bathing in the blue light. The story of his entire life will pivot on the next 10 seconds. Not on a battlefield, not on a throne, on a rooftop in a glance. Before this hour is out, you will know how a single look unmade the greatest of kings, why the strongest man who ever lived died blind and chained, and how to hold the most ancient fire of all, without letting it hold you. This is the sin everyone smiles about. Lust. We wink at it. We write the songs about it. We sell everything with it. Of the 7, it is the one no one takes seriously, which is precisely how it has unmade more kings, broken more houses, and rewritten more histories than any army that ever marched. It is not the loudest sin. It is the most patient. It does not need your ambition, your pride, or your anger. It needs only a glance, held 1 second too long. And it has all the time in the world. Its masks are the oldest and the most beautiful. It calls itself love, the original forgery, and still the best. It calls itself romance, destiny, chemistry, the language of fate, so the chooser need never admit he chose. It calls itself freedom. It calls itself natural, and what argument is left after that? But learn to tell the voices apart, for one of them is lying about its name. Love builds. Lust spends. Love wants a person, in full over years. Lust wants an experience, and the person is merely where the experience is kept. Be precise about the enemy, for desire itself is not the sin. Desire is the pulse of life. It built every city, crossed every ocean, painted every ceiling worth lying under. A man without desire is not pure, he is merely cold. No statue ever sinned. So the fire is not the sin. The question, the only question, is where the fire lives. In the hearth or on the floor. Mastered, it warms the house for decades. Loose, the same flame eats it in a night. The sin is not that you burn. The sin is who is master, the keeper, or the flame. Return to the rooftop. The king is David, the shepherd boy who felled a giant, the man after heaven's own heart. He sees Bathsheba bathing, and he does not look away. She is the wife of Uriah, one of his own soldiers, loyal, at war for him even now. The king sends for her anyway. And when she sends back word that she is with child, the cover-up begins, as it always begins, and ends with Uriah ordered to the hottest point of the battle, and the army quietly pulled back from around him. The giant killer became a murderer. Not through ambition, not through wrath. Through one glance, fed and fed, until it owned a king. Mark the sequence, the look, the lingering, the sending. No one falls all at once. Or weigh the oldest war story our civilization kept. A prince of Troy takes the most beautiful woman in the world from her husband's house. For that, for one desire indulged, 1,000 ships are launched. 10 years of siege. Heroes fed to the dust, a dynasty erased, and a city that had stood for centuries burned to its stones. The poets did not record it as a romance. They recorded it as arithmetic, This is what one unmastered appetite can cost the world. When the old men of Troy saw Helen walk the walls, they whispered, "No wonder. No wonder armies die for such a face." And then, but still, let her sail home before we all burn for it. They saw clearly, and they burned anyway. And if you believe strength is a defense, consider the strongest man who ever lived. Samson tore a lion apart with his bare hands. Armies could not bind him. No chain held him, no gate stopped him, no soldier stood against him. Then Delilah asked him where his strength lived. 3 times she asked. 3 times he lied, and 3 times she sprang the trap, proving exactly what she was. He saw the trap. He knew. And he told her anyway. That is the terrible detail. Lust does not deceive the mind. It overrules it. He woke shorn, blinded, grinding grain in a Philistine mill. Lust is the spy, already inside your gates. It does not break your walls. It persuades you, smiling, to open them yourself. And if you think great responsibility cures it, one more story. Mark Antony held 1/3 of the known world in his hand. Rome's finest general, heir to Caesar's legions, a man armies died for gladly. Then Cleopatra sailed to meet him on a barge of gold and perfume, and the general began, by degrees, to disappear. At Actium, in the middle of the battle that would decide the world, her ships turned for home, and Antony turned his own flagship and followed her, abandoning his fleet, his men, his empire, for a sail on the horizon. His soldiers fought on for hours, refusing to believe he had gone. History's verdict was already written. He had ceased to be a general who loved and become a lover, pretending to command. Now consider your age. Once lust had to wait for a rooftop, a face on the walls, a barge on the river. Today, the rooftop is in your pocket. An infinite scroll of faces and bodies, polished, posed, and engineered, each image tuned to the oldest hook in human wiring. The merchants of this age discovered what the merchants of every age suspected: desire scales. Desire monetizes. Desire never says enough. But you were not built for infinite supply. The endless feast does not satisfy the hunger, it abolishes the taste. And it calls the numbness freedom. For this fire obeys a law the young never believe, the law of diminishing flame. Every pleasure chased as an escape returns smaller each time and demands more. The chase quickens. The prize shrinks, until a man is no longer pursuing pleasure at all. He is pursuing the memory of a pleasure through rooms that grow emptier each year. Lust is the only hunger that grows hungrier by eating. And what it eats, in the end, is not bodies. It is your capacity for delight itself. The punishment for worshipping sensation is to slowly lose the ability to feel it. So the work begins with the honest sentence spoken in the quiet. Not I shouldn't, that voice has failed you 100 times. The truer question, what is this fire actually carrying? For lust is often a courier with someone else's message. Loneliness. The ache to be chosen. The need to feel alive, or young, or real. The wish for 1 hour to escape your own life. Name the true hunger, and the false meal loses its menu. A man who knows what he is actually starving for has already stopped eating at the wrong table. Then learn the secret the old masters guarded. Desire is energy, and energy does not care which engine it drives. The same current that pulls a king to a rooftop can drive 10 years of work that outlives him. This is the discipline of athletes before the contest, of artists in the locked studio, of every man who ever aimed himself at something. Do not try to extinguish the fire. A man at war with his own pulse loses. Give it a worthier object. Aim it. The fire does not care what it burns. That choice was always only yours. And learn what the scroll can never teach you. One real face outweighs 10,000 images. Intimacy, being fully known by one person, over years, and chosen anyway, is the rarer pleasure, the one that compounds instead of decaying. The 1,000 shallow flames cannot do what one deep fire does, warm you twice, once in the burning and once in the remembering. Depth is the only cure ever found for the hunger of breadth. The man with one real fire does not envy the man with 1,000 sparks. He pities him. For sparks light nothing, and the night is long. Now the practice, and it is 1 second wide. The first glance is human. The second glance is a decision. Your sovereignty lives in the gap between them. The man who can refuse the second look owns himself, and a man who owns himself cannot be bought, baited, or steered. Guard the gates, for what you feed grows, and what you starve goes quiet. This is not repression. It is rulership. Every king in this story fell at the same gate. Stand a guard there. It is the smallest gate in the kingdom, and everything enters through it. Return one last time to the rooftop at dusk. The tragedy was never that the king desired. Kings desire. Men desire. You will desire. The tragedy is that he had nowhere to put the fire but the floor. So build the hearth. The committed love. The chosen craft. The aimed life. Stone by stone, build the place where the fire is supposed to live. The fire in the hearth warms the house for 30 years. The fire on the floor takes the house in a night. It is the same fire. The only difference was the keeping. But not every master burns. The next one purrs. He sits at your table 3 times a day, wearing a napkin and a smile. He never demands. He only offers and offers and offers. The most polite of the 7. The most patient. The most underestimated. Gluttony. The appetite that devours its keeper. That story is next. It begins with a starving hunter, a bowl of stew, and the worst trade ever made.